Happy Hump Day, everyone. We completed day 41 of our 80-day obsession journey earlier. I've been on a call, so it actually was completed about an hour and a half ago. But it's been so amazing. Like, number one, my exciting news was that Autumn shared my transformation on her page. And I'll tell you why it's exciting. Because when I got started in this business, on my journey 5.5 years ago, really, I felt so alone. I felt like nobody cared. I felt that nobody appreciated me. And then when I found this stranger that helped me get started and then was proud of me, it made me feel good. It made me feel like I mattered. And that's been the most motivating factor for me to keep going, other than just obviously wanting to live a healthy life, to be more active as a mother. But really, it never gets old, even after 5.5 years later, hearing my coach, who got me started on this journey, saying that she's proud of me. And so many people find significance in pleasing and helping others. You definitely have to find a balance. But when Autumn shared my transformation on her page, I didn't even realize it, but somebody shared it and tagged me. It made me feel good because I'm working hard to represent what we do and her creations. And so the fact that she was proud of my transformation made me feel good, that all of my work that I've been doing has been, worthwhile. And what I've shared along this journey is that this has been a really challenging time period for our group that is part of this test group, because we've had 2 hurricanes, we've had deaths, we've had people who had gotten injured, we had a pregnancy, all these different things, but we were brought together. And really, us as humans, we are really driven as, we're like pack animals. We need a tribe. We need to be connected to other people. Oftentimes people get hurt and they withdraw. I'm guilty of doing that in the past, but really we operate better when we have a support system. And a lot of times you might be hanging with the wrong people that aren't providing you with the right support, but being in this group has been amazing because we've seen so many people overcome so many different obstacles and things that are going on in their life, and it's been very motivating, very inspiring. And the fact that my coach, she's in Miami, she's part of the same test group, and so is her sister, and they have no power. They luckily their homes are fine. They've been safe. They stayed safe, which was crazy with what happened and what went through Miami. But they have no power. And if you've ever been to Florida, it's freaking hot as hell there and super humid. So they are working out because they want to keep going. They want to keep making Autumn proud. They want to continue their journey. They're obsessed with what we're doing, and so they're working out with with no electricity, in the humidity. It's nuts. And so one of my mottos is, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you never ask, the answer is always no. And so what my coach did is that she wanted to continue on. She couldn't access the workouts because she didn't have electricity, and her internet has been really spotty, as for many of South Florida. But she went to Autumn, and Autumn was able to give her the workouts so she could go through them. So she's still getting it done. So where there's a will, there's a way. And she asked because this was important to her. And the one thing that I found about this whole program is that it's gotten us really in tune with what matters. And when something matters, you're gonna find a way. And when my coach is still doing what inspired me years ago, it keeps me on this journey because she is true to what drew her to me. And it's so amazing to see this group of people that are cheering each other on, worrying about each other's safety, helping each other out, working through the ups and downs and the struggles that come with, trying to get healthy, trying to get fit, trying to do something different. And, one thing that I was thinking about that I've talked about recently is that a lot of people look at what coaches like my coach is doing, or things that I'm doing or other people are doing, and they always say, I could never do what you're doing, or I don't have your motivation. I don't have this. When I jumped out of an airplane on Sunday, like about 100 people were saying that, oh, I could never do that. And I was one of those people. But Autumn said yesterday that no one workout is the same. That, there's no way you could possibly get the same amount of sleep, eat the same foods, have the same temperature, the same conditions. That all the variables are different. And so many people don't realize the strength that they have. That there's something that happened in your life that took a lot of strength, a lot of determination, a lot of willpower to be able to just pick yourself up and keep going. And what happens is that you've lived through these things, and then you're at a different season in your life and you see somebody else do something that's very heroic, and you start comparing yourself to that person, when in all reality you're just as strong. It's just happened in different seasons of your life. So this is something that when you're looking at other people, stop comparing yourself and your ability to do things compared to what they're doing now, because at some point in your life you've had major strength. I've had friends who've kicked 10-year meth habits. They've gotten away from abusive relationships. I look at some of the things that I've done that that were not as crazy as jumping out of an airplane, but things that I've done that took a lot of strength. And other times I've said that I didn't have the strength, but I had the strength. It just wasn't applied in the right areas when I needed it. And it really, whenever you feel like it's necessary, you'll pull that strength up. And so instead of saying I can't do this or I won't do that, just realize that it's not something that's super important to you right now, but that when the time comes, when it becomes important to you, you'll have that strength. That I'm no different than you, and you're no different than the next person. It really just depends on how important it is, and how necessary it is at that point in your life. I was speaking to my friend, who's one of my good friends and success partners today, and she was talking about how her weight was always something that went up and down, and she was always heavy, and she stuffed herself with food to numb herself to the things that she was going through. She lost her dad. There's lots of things that were going on, and she realized that she needed to make a change. But there were times that people brought stuff to the table saying, here's this ability to get healthy, to get fit, to lose weight, and she wasn't ready. But it wasn't until she went to the doctor and her blood pressure was through the roof, and she was in her early 30s, where she realized, like, now's the time to to do something. Why wait? And then it became something that was necessary, and it's turned into a passion. So the thing is, what you're comparing yourself to now just might not be important to you. Last night I had one of my friends who's a life coach speak to my team, and I always have calls that I do for my team, and I have different various people on there, and it's always open to the public. But she teaches strategic intervention, and she was really talking about how our brains are not wired for entrepreneurship, and that our brains are really wired just mainly for survival, and that's really the sole purpose. So a lot of times people are looking for motivation, and it's not going to happen. That she said, how many times have you wanted to do something, and next thing you know, you're sitting on the couch and you're stuffing your face with your favorite food and you're binge watching some Netflix show. It's not that you lack motivation, and it's not like you need to wait for this magical moment to come to give you this motivation to get up and go do everything you need to do. But you need to understand your brain. Our brains are wired to keep us in safety. So while you're doing that, you're safe, you're fed, you're warm, you're secure. And so many people don't realize that these things, that you're not lazy, you're not weak, you're not unmotivated. And I hear all these things where people say, they're like, oh, I'm a lazy cow, I'm unmotivated, I'm this or that, and you start categorizing yourself as something, but really it's just your brain that's helping you fill these needs. And that's one thing that I learned last year, is that every human has the same 6 human needs. It's love and connection, growth, significance, certainty, uncertainty, and contribution. And when you get at least 3 of those needs met, it becomes an addiction. A lot of people have addictions that are negative, and a lot of people have addictions that are positive. And most of the time when people replace one negative addiction they replace it with another addiction. You have the ability to have it be something more positive, but you see people who, I myself am guilty of this, that tomorrow's day 700 of my sobriety, and I found myself that once I kicked the alcohol, then I started eating. And so that was something that I had to replace, that with that. And one thing that I learned when I learned about these 6 human needs, because I've had drug addiction and alcohol addiction and, relationship addiction and sex addiction, all these bad, addictive behaviors. It wasn't that people say, oh, I have an addictive personality. And I realized at the point that nobody really has an addictive personality. Some people just don't have their needs met. And so they find ways to get their needs met. And a lot of times it's not through, productive things. And so I realized at that point that I wasn't really a drug addict. I really wasn't an alcoholic. I was just using these things as coping mechanisms to get my needs filled. And that drugs were, for example, drugs and alcohol gave me connection because I had a tribe of people who were living the same lifestyle. When somebody like me who's really actually introverted and shies away from people naturally, I have to force myself to be around people, and I do love them, but it's a mental thing that I see people as a way that in connection as a formula to me for me getting hurt in the future. So it's very hard, but alcohol and drugs gave me that ability to step out of that introverted shell and be able to, spend time with people and talk to them and not feel inhibited by my introverted self or my brain kicking in that I was, that they were going to hurt me. And, that also gave me the ability to get the love as well that I was craving. So the thing is that other people find productive things that provide that. For me, coaching, being part of a tribe, being part of a clan of people that are positive, that are happy, that are contributing towards me, that's replaced that because I get the love, I get the significance, I get the connection, I get the growth. And so those things happen. And what I understood that, the one thing that my friend Sarah shared on the call last night was what is the difference between a recreational drug user and then an addict. And I truly believe that if you've never done drugs or if you've never had severe mental issues or painful trauma, then you probably don't understand. But if you can understand the brain, you can understand why people make some of these decisions. But the difference is that there's, I don't know a really happy, secure person that has a drug problem. A happy, secure people have experimented with drugs when they're at the party and somebody says here, try this. But the difference is there might be somebody who recreationally uses drugs and then all of a sudden, boom, they're an addict and they're, got this full-fledged, problem. And that was somebody like me, that I use drugs or I use alcohol, and then at certain times I use them heavily where it became a problem. And so the difference is that what happened was when I was using it recreationally, it was just recreational. And then something changed that love or connection or growth or something was missing or pulled away from your life, and drugs and alcohol became the filler for that. And so if you understand that, you can understand the life of an addict. You can understand maybe some patterns you've had in the past. But it was pretty enlightening that she shared that part, because I didn't really understand the difference between how you could go from recreational to full-fledged addict using drugs or alcohol, but it really made sense. And it's something that you have to, I really don't like to use the term an alcoholic, because I don't really like to identify myself as that, because when the language you use, and this is something I always share, the language that you use really dictates your behavior, who you are, who you tell yourself you are, even if it really isn't in line with how you were designed. But if you tell yourself you're something, then you're not going to behave in ways that are uncharacteristic to that identification factor that you gave. And so, I do talk about having mental illness, I do talk about being sober, but I really don't like to label myself as a depressed person, a person, that is this or that. I've been diagnosed with things, I've struggled with things in the past, but I don't want to give myself that identification, because I don't want for my brain to basically dictate my actions, because whatever you believe about yourself, you're going to do and you're going to become. And so your thoughts literally control everything about you. And so if you start identifying yourself, and I've seen this happen, that people have used something as their identity, and whenever they decide and realize that that maybe isn't really their true self, or they want to change that because it's causing issues in their life, then they have a hard time pulling away from these things, because that's what their identity was and that's how they define themselves. So be very careful at how the language you use describing yourself and the things that you use to identify yourself, because your thoughts control your actions. And this goes for everything, not just health or fitness, but just in life in general. So anyways, that was my long-winded, lots of talking that I wanted to share. But today was day 41. We are like literally over the hump of our halfway point of 80-day obsession, and we're getting amazing results. And one thing that I've learned through our programs is that you've got to be consistent, and your body is a reflection of your results. And really, that once you get into a routine, once you start building a base, once you start your body starts cooperating, they start your muscles start firing, then the results really come. So I've had great results right now, but I've really found from doing 20 different programs in the last 5.5 years that the biggest results come at the end, because you're pushing yourself harder. Your body is used to the movement, your brain is working, saying do this. So I look forward to sharing more results with you, and I'm hoping by the end of day 80 I can take a better butt shot, because let me tell you, it is really hard to take a butt selfie, I guess that's what you call it, the right way, because you can literally pull a back muscle or something. But I did take before or transformation pictures today, and I definitely see a change in my butt from day one, because our program is really targeted towards your arms, abs, and ass, but you definitely get a full body workout. So anyways, if you're wanting to get started with the 80-day obsession in January, I really suggest that you reach out to me or whatever coach you're working with to get a plan in place to get started, so that you're prepared for January, because this isn't just a really beginner program.